Hello and welcome. It's been quite a while since I've done any videos or any postings. I've been kind of silent into going deep into my studies, and things are shifting and changing. And so I want to talk a little bit about astrology and where my path is kind of leading. And this goes back to um, the first live in-person class that I took with an astrologer. So at the point that I took this class, I'd already read several books and, for many, many years and just kind of dabbling and studying, a little bit. And taking this class is what really launched me into a extremely deep dive into astrology. And it woke something up, and I haven't stopped since. Like, I just cannot consume enough information. And part of it's been searching, right? And I remember in this class, one of the things this instructor stated, one of the very first things she stated, we all had our birth charts to look at and go along with as she was studying and teaching us. And one of the things that she said, our birth print, our birth chart is, it's an imprint of the sky, like a photograph. It's a photograph of the sky the moment you took your first breath. She said, if if there was a nurse in the delivery room, the moment that you were born and took your first breath, and if that nurse ran outside and looked at the sky and looked to the eastern horizon, the sign, the constellation, the sign that she would see coming up on that eastern horizon is your rising sign. And she pointed to where that was on the chart so that we could see where it is, and that this represents the eastern horizon, the ascendant sign, the eastern horizon, the sign that is rising on the horizon at the moment you were born. Fascinating. I loved that. I've always been really connected with nature and looking up to the stars. And so now at this point, when I'm studying astrology, I am going outside and looking at the stars, sitting outside, I'm stargazing. I have my astrology app and I pull up the chart and I look at where it is and I start looking at the sky and trying to find the planets and the constellations and using that. And I have my constellation app. And so I'm really starting to observe the sky and the stars and the planets like the ancients did. And I knew in my heart that this is how astrology was. I mean, we didn't have computers and this kind of things back then. So how did they study astrology, right? They went outside and they watched the sky and they documented and they observed over time every night. And so that's what I wanted to do. And the more that I did this, the more that I realized there was a disconnect. What I was seeing on the birth chart did not match what was in the sky. And I didn't know about sidereal astrology at this point. And so doing all of these mental gymnastics, right? My brain is trying to make it fit, and I'm coming up with stories and, oh, well, it's because of this, and then this is what it really means. And it was just a lot of mental gymnastics. I created 3 times more work for myself than I really needed. At some point, I come across shamanic astrology. I was introduced to shamanic astrology. And what I really enjoyed about this system was the encouragement to go out and to look at the sky and connect with the stars and to just connect with those cosmic energies in a way that was experiential and not just sitting on a computer learning and studying and staring at these things, to actually go out and experience it. And I was already doing this, so I enjoyed it because it was in alignment with how I was studying. And this system disconnected the signs from the constellations. And that was the first time that I heard that the signs are not the constellations, that it's something different. And and again, it ended up being a story. It's a story of how you make things work, right? So the constellations got named after the zodiac, and then that has created all of this confusion. So this is the story that they're going with. And, when the sun is in Leo, it's not the constellation. It's not Leo constellation, it's the constellation of the lion. And their explanation was because the constellations are different sizes, that this is why it doesn't always match. And so uh it was starting to bring in both systems. Like, okay, so the sun is in Leo and it's emanating through the constellation of Virgo. And so or not Virgo, the Virgin. So it's emanating through these different constellations, and they took the sign name away, and so the constellations just became named what they are. So Leo is the constellation of the lion. The Aquarius is the constellation of the water barrow. Libra, the constellation of the scales. So this kind of connected some things in my brain, but now it's still confusing, right? Because you're still looking at two different things, and which way are you really reading it, which has more precedent, the sign or the constellation that it's emanating through. And the point of the studies that I had learned at that point, I didn't even get to that point. I discontinued my studies after, a short period of time. I only did like one certification level. And so I don't actually know how that system reconciles that, because I did not continue studying into that system. But what it did is, this is when I started looking at both systems, and I started incorporating the sidereal into it. And it's really when that became prevalent. Honestly, I'm surprised that I haven't switched sooner. Um, and I just feel like part of that is just my own path, my own journey that my soul had to go through, right? The journey of, um, I don't know, whatever it is, acceptance. I considered, I stayed consistent with using the tropical, out of complacency, right? Because that was the expectation, right? That's what most people are using. That's what people that are coming to me are familiar with. And so out of all of these things, I was fitting myself into this box, for the sake of other people. And I just don't want to do that anymore. Right. So that is why I needed that journey. I needed to come to that conclusion for myself. And in that discovery, coming across a different system of astrology, a system of astrology that's even older than the Jyotish, the Vedic astrology system. And so in the Vedic astrology and in the Vedic text, those uh they will say that, that astrology has always been with them, that they have created that astrology. And documents are coming forth and coming true from the Vedic texts that are actually saying that is not the case, that astrology was brought to India, that astrology was brought to the Vedas. Uh, So just fascinating. But what really is the difference? We have tropical astrology and sidereal astrology. And in this tropical system, this is what most people know. I am born in, right now we're in September. I'm born in September. I must be a Virgo. And you're taught that you are a Virgo, and you are learned, everybody knows what their sun sign is. Even if they don't know astrology, they know what their sun sign is, and they probably have read a couple of horoscopes, and most of those times they're just like, no, no, I don't, that doesn't fit right. But we get told things enough that it's uh programming us. We're getting that into our brains, and uh molding that, right? So is that really true? If you're told you're a Virgo, are you really a Virgo? It doesn't really fit. So this is here in my astrology readings, more mental gymnastics, right? Okay, well, the sun is in Virgo, that person's a Virgo, they're not identifying with anything that I'm saying. So why is that? Okay. And I start looking at all of these other planets, and what I was actually doing was interpreting the chart from a sidereal system without even realizing it, from a very long time. once I became aware of the sidereal system, then I started understanding that that was a little bit, oh, the sun is in Virgo, but it's emanating through the constellation of the lion. So you're incorporating some of these traits of the lion. Um, to win in the sidereal system, the other sun is in Leo and they're in Leo, and that's why. So it just made more, I don't know, it makes more sense now. And then when I look at the history of that, what is the tropical zodiac? You start delving into it even further and coming to an understanding and a realization that this system was implemented to in a way to hide the astrology because um the zodiac shifts, right? 1 degree every 72 years, so it's every 26,000 years. They call it the precession of the equinoxes. So approximately 2,000 years ago, the tropical zodiac aligned up with the sidereal zodiac. So at the vernal equinox, around March 20th, March 21st, the vernal equinox is when the sun moves into Aries. 0 degrees Aries marks the vernal equinox. This is the tropical zodiac. It's a zodiac of the seasons. And that's the argument. Why is this? Why is it that the stars don't match? Because no, we're not using the stars. We're using the seasons. It's going to be 0 degrees Aries is March 20th, March 21st, because that's the vernal equinox. That's when Aries begins. That's the Aries season. And that's that's what we're using. So this tropical system is what was used to create the calendars. And it's a seasonal astrology. It's not based on the stars. And astrology is supposed to be the science of the stars and studying the stars. And so when we come to that discovery and that realization that the church forbid astrology and that the only astrology that was now implemented is this tropical system, which for 72 years it matched because the 0 degree Aries point of the vernal equinox was at 0 degree Aries, but come 72 years, that shifted. And so it has continued to shift every 22 years. So at this point, this year, 2025, the vernal equinox at 0 degree Aries in the tropical system, the sun is actually in the very early signs of Pisces. So it's about 24 degrees, 23 degrees right now, difference. So people that are born in the later degrees of a sign, theirs is still going to match. But guess what? In a few more years, it's not even going to match at all. You're going to be in a completely different sign. So why is that important? Well, why was it hidden? Why was it taken away? Why was it that the church implemented that this system of astrology couldn't be studied, right? It was made illegal. And where is it that the tropical system flourishes? If we look at that, it's where the church went, where they conquered, and those systems of where Christianity and Catholicism have gone and conquered. In systems, places of the East where it isn't as strong and it wasn't forbidden, this is why astrology, the Vedic astrology, still exists and it has been studied since all of that time. And it wasn't changed just because the tropical system aligned with the sidereal system. Okay, well, we're at this point, this is the change of the system. We're at the end of a 26,000 year cycle and we're beginning a new 26,000 year cycle. And then it just continues on. And it's just a part of that culture. But then, why was it hidden? Uh, so that, I don't know, it just draws me even more to this other system that has been hidden away, even from even in the Vedic text, right? It's hidden away, and it's only begun to be resurfacing. And so I'm very interested in Asterian astrology now, and that is what I'm studying. And it is a 27 sign system overlaid the 12 sign system. So when in each of the 12 uh, signs, there are three different types within that sign. So it gives us much more dimension, even more than the 144 different possibilities. Right now we have a lot more, a lot more differences. And why, there's only 12 signs. Why is it that everybody in Virgo are so vastly different? Right? Yes, you have to take in the whole chart, but even just like that essence, um, it's so different. And so now this gives more explanation and more depth and more meaning, and I'm delving into it. And I actually can't stop thinking about the system when it was brought into my awareness and I heard about it. I knew nothing about it. And um and I just haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I keep dreaming about it, and I'm reading everything that I can about it. And there's a lot that I don't understand yet, and it's still just a learning process. But with that, the astrology is going to start looking very different in all of my posts and all of my videos, because I'm at the point I just can't use the tropical system anymore, any more than just for a calendar. So I hope this has just brought some clarity information, and hopefully you're excited to learn about the astrology going forward and what I have to bring my information and my knowledge into all of this for all of you. Thank you.